Hey Nerd Fam! Hobby motivation tip number 4 is being careful about comparing yourself to other people. Now, I know that on social media, this is, a hotbed and very, very difficult to avoid on social media. Social media is literally set up to encourage you to compare yourself to people, usually negatively. So it's hard to say just don't do it, but let's explore it and have a bit of a think about it. So obviously social media, comparing yourself to people, be that on their level of painting or their number of followers or whatever other thing it is about their life, can lead you to a lot of self-doubt about yourself that then influences your hobby motivation and gets in the way of you doing the hobby that you actually enjoy. So being aware of your level is obviously can be valuable, like keeping an eye on how your painting is doing is really important. But the person to primarily compare yourself to is yourself. It's one of the reasons that I always encourage people to keep some of your old models, and particularly if you can keep your old or first models like on your hobby desk where you're actually painting. And I know I talk about this with miniature painting, but you can do it with whatever it is that you're doing. Basically a way of reminding yourself where you started and how far you've come already, having that visually there while you're doing that activity and using that as your comparison point is much more useful than having your comparison point as people online. Because remember, people online, you have no idea what their background is. Lots of people have a very different background. And also you're comparing yourself, which is one person, to the entire rest of the planet. And what? There is no one on this planet who will come up positively against every single person on the planet in every single field of their life. So you can't expect that of yourself. And I do that badly, so I know that one. But trying to at least have those things that you can remind yourself of when you're experiencing those thoughts and self-doubts and feelings, trying to counteract that with statements or other thoughts that remind yourself of the context and the reality behind those comparisons is really, really useful. So one of the other things here that gets linked in with this is people fearing getting bad results with their painting, getting really worked up, worrying that a model is going badly or isn't good enough or won't be good enough. And obviously when you're focusing on how good the result is, like how well it's going, you're not actually focusing on doing the activity, on what it actually looks like, and actually focusing on the painting. So questioning for yourself why it matters. Why does it matter if that model is good? It doesn't. It just doesn't matter. If you paint a model and it's genuinely the worst model ever painted, ever in the history of all time, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't. You are still completely valid and valuable as a person, regardless of that fact. Nothing happens when something is bad. What actually happens is that you've learned lessons from that. To become a good artist in any discipline, you need to make a lot of shit art. Am I allowed to swear? A lot of very bad art. So bad for swearing. Sorry, it comes out. I just can't help myself. But yeah, you need to make bad art. It's important. So trying to expect all of your minis or all of your projects or whatever it is that you're making with your hobby, trying to expect everything to be good, trying to expect to win every game, that isn't realistic. It's never going to happen. And it's also not useful for your progression. You need to make those mistakes so that you can learn from them, so that you can grow. Being experimental is much more effective as a growth method than being perfectionist. Through being experimental, you're going to find new stuff. You're going to actually really get to grips with the basics of whatever activity it is you're doing. You're going to learn it from a lot of different angles. That's when you're going to get good at something. When you spend too much of your focus trying to make one thing exactly perfect and beating yourself up about it not being perfect, that's brain power that you could be spending on having a more positive approach that will then also lead to more positive improvement in your actual skill level itself. I know that this is not an easy thing to just turn off, but raising your awareness of those issues that are going on when you're painting, if there's particular thoughts that you have an issue with that come up a lot of the time when you're painting, write yourself counteracting thoughts that you have on your desk that remind you of the opposite view, of the truth behind the lie that your self-doubt is telling you. Having those visible and something that you can check and remind yourself of while you're doing the activity itself is a really valuable way of actually starting to reprogram those parts of your brain and change those thoughts so that over the long term, sorry, my phone is bleeping, that you're going to actually have less of those issues while you're doing the activity. Also, one more thing to remember with comparison is that having a difference between the vision that you see in your head and the result that you're getting is normal and fine and healthy. The point at which you stop being able to move forward and improve is the point at which you go, this is perfect now. And then you just stop. You just stop learning. You stop trying to improve. You're just like, no, I'm perfect. You're not aiming for that. You're always going to want to be improving. The best people in the world at any activity are the ones who are always challenging themselves and always trying to keep growing. So you need to find your peace with the fact that you are aiming for a level higher than where you are. That's not a bad thing. You don't need to be frustrated with being at the level you are. It is positive that you are aiming higher and that you are learning and growing and improving and moving in that direction. That is a good thing. You don't need to be there yet, because trust me, the moment you get there, you will just set your sights on the next thing up. Being content with where you are, not content as in, oh, I'm just going to stay here, but knowing that this is a step of your journey. If you want to get to that top point, you're going to have to walk every step of the path between here and there. If you're angry with yourself at every single step of that path, you're not going to walk as far. It's fine. I promise, it's okay to not be painting as well as you want to be painting, or doing any activity as well as you want to be doing it. The more you can focus on enjoying it, the more you're going to start improving. And that is what we'll go into in the next video, which I will do in a second. Love you lots. Thank you for joining me for the Hobby Motivation series. This video is one of 10 or maybe 11. So if you've only just clicked on, then watch some more of them and it will give you more information about hobby motivation. It would be really good to know your experiences and all your thoughts about hobby motivation, how all these different things apply to you. So please come and share your experiences and your thoughts about hobby motivation in the comments. I would love to know all your input so that I can just learn more about it all and be able to then teach more about it all in the future. And if you've had a good time and you've learned some stuff, then feel free to stick around. I don't know what I'm going to be doing on YouTube, but I hope it's going to be useful, and I'm sure I will chat with you all soon. Love you lots. Mwah.